So this is the next pattern that I'm going to talk you through working. So you should recognise that pattern marking as a spider. So if we count the legs on each side, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a 4-legged spider. And you'll notice that in this pattern, normally a spider is going into something else. There's no separate ground around it. It is going straight into the next feature. And that next feature is what we call a fan. And this one's a simple fan. Simple because there are a number of different variations of a fan, and this one is the simplest of them. The next few patterns that I'm going to do are all going to have variations of this fan in. When you work this, it's quite difficult sometimes keeping to that outside edge and getting your purrs to curve around for it. So on this first one, what I've done is I've made the fan a very shallow fan to help you with that, or to not show it as quite as obvious. So in a fan, you are weaving backwards and forwards. You have a worker pair that works backwards and forwards. You can see that as we come out this side, it's getting wider, so we'll need to take legs in from the spider. As we come down this side, it gets narrower, so we'll need to leave pairs out of the fan for the next spider. So let me put the lace alongside it. So sorry about the bright coloured background. It's sometimes very hard to find colours that coloured threads will show up on. So as I said, we've got a spider. It's a 4-legged spider. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, great. We've then got a fan, and as I said, there's a pair that weaves backwards and forwards. And to help in this pattern, in the working of it, what I've done is I've done that worker in a light purple. We've also got a pair that holds along the outside edge, and that's in the darker purple. But there's some subtleties in terms of the working that you can't see with what I've got there. So before I take you over to the working diagram, just to point something out, at the start of the pattern, because this is a bookmark, we can't just start really with fans. It doesn't look right. So we do need the spider at the top, but we need something to anchor that spider in place. So that anchoring in place is done with a row of ground stitches at the top. And there's also one at the very bottom. The top and the bottom effectively mirror in terms of what's there. So let me take you to the working diagram. Okay, so this is a nice large copy of the working diagram. What you can see, I'm not going to start at the very top of the diagram. On this one, I'm going to talk you through the middle and then work back upwards. So a 4-legged spider here, and if you remember back from our previous pattern, it was just spiders where we had 2-legged spiders. I talked about extending it to larger spiders and said that the number of twists that you needed to have on the legs corresponded with the number of legs in a quarter. So this is a 4-legged spider. There's 4 legs in each quarter on each side. So that means these threads, these pairs coming in all need to have 4 twists on them. And if you look consistently, they've all got 4 twists on them. Okay, so let me go back to the top. So the top, we have a spider. And the first thing to note, that if you count the number of twists, and remember these are added twists, you'll see that these at the top have only got 3, but the ones at the bottom have got 4. The reason for that is because we've worked a row of half stitch above. So 2 diagonal rows of half stitch. Half stitch has 1 twist in it. So this leg will still have 4 twists on it, 1 from the half stitch, and 3 added twists. So that's why those twists are different. Okay, so you can see this is where we're adding the pairs at the very top. of the half stitch, pin, half stitch. We're then going to work our fan. Now, in working diagrams, you don't always show in a weaving backwards and forwards where you've got a worker, you don't always show the twists at the end of the rows. So these fans, all of these fans, at the end of each row of working, the worker will be twisted twice and then put the pin in. So yes, we have got extra twists shown as added, but putting in extra twists at the end of the row, it just, there isn't really the space on the diagram to do it, and it gets confusing, and we're all expected to know that the end of a row backwards and forwards, you should always have 2 twists on your worker, whether that's one from a stitch that's already made and one added one, or whether it's 2 added ones. So this fan is all worked in cloth stitch, backwards and forwards, with the 2 twists at the end of each row. And you can see as I'm going in, as it's getting wider, I'm taking a purr in. As it's getting narrower, I'm leaving 1 purr out at each pin. But the bit that you couldn't see without looking very, very closely at the lace and a blown up version of the lace is that actually there's an extra twist on the worker. So this extra twist is partly to push that edge thread out and to hold that curve. And that'll be really important later on. You can see in the drawing, it does have a very slight curve to it. Naturally, they will all want to come straight down. If you've got any tension on it, it's really hard trying to get them sometimes to keep to a little bit of curve on them. So, before we go through our outside passive, when we've come through our outside passive for the first time, we twist the worker. We then bring in a purr, work the edge with the 2 twists. We will then work back through 1 purr in cloth stitch. We twist the worker. We work through the edge stitch, the edge purr. We twist the worker twice. We work through the edge purr. We twist the worker once. We work through 1 purr that's already in the work, and we bring another purr in. We twist twice, put the pin in. Come back through 2, twist the worker, work through the edge purr in cloth, twist the worker twice, work back through the edge purr, twist the worker once. So you can see how we carry on doing that throughout the whole of the pattern. Just to say, when you're leaving out, that you always leave your purr out after you've worked back through it, not before you've worked back through it. So let me show you the pricking, and let me show you the threads that I've used in working this pattern. So these are the threads that I've used. I've used an Aurifil 28 in white, and that's my main colour. So I need 8 of those pairs. Those pairs don't need an awful lot of thread on them. Fingertip to top of the arm on each bobbin should be sufficient. They aren't doing much work at all. There's a bit of curve in them, so you should be fine. The next one that I've got is this Aurifil 12. So Aurifil 12 is a thicker thread. Doesn't have to be thicker, you could work it in the same thread, but it just gives it a bit of body if you're using a bit of a thicker thread there, as there isn't a lot of body to this pattern. So that's always worked through in cloth stitch. And our fan workers are this light purple colour, also in Aurifil 12. So there obviously are alternatives to Aurifil if that's your choice. Tan A30 would be an appropriate one for the Aurifil 28 too, and a relatively fine one of the Pearlays. So Pearly 8 you could get away with, but it'll be quite thick, so ideally something a bit thicker, sorry, a bit finer, a Pearlay 8. Okay, so I will now talk you through working the pattern. So before I start the actual lace, I forgot to tell you about the worker thread and how much I actually need of that. You can see that bobbin, those pair of bobbins is actually quite well filled. So I take arm length to arm length on one bobbin for that. There was a little bit left over, but you always need some left over at the end. In terms of the outside passive, you don't need an awful lot on that one. Arm to elbow, perhaps a bit more, just to hold on to the bobbin is quite enough, because it is only literally going top of the pattern to bottom of the pattern and isn't moving any further than that. So let's now start off working this pattern. So we're going to start off with a diagonal row of half stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 half stitches in total. We're obviously going to start off at the top, and a pair is actually going to, because the way half stitch works, is actually going to travel along that diagonal and become the worker. So we actually want to start off at the top with the two worker pairs. In this case, mine are lilac. So as normal, I'm going to hang those on temporary pins above my work, and then I'm going to work half stitch, pin, half stitch, release, release, and ease down. Okay, so the next ones that come through are going to be the 4 pairs for the spider on this side, and they're all, in my case, going to be white. So one at a time, I'm going to hang in a white pair on a temporary pin, and it's half stitch, pin, half stitch, half stitch, pin, half stitch, and release, and repeat. So I need to add a total of 4 on this side in that way. Half stitch, pin, half stitch, and release. That's 2 added. So another 2 to go on this side. Half stitch, pin, half stitch, and release. Just trying to get them all the same length. Sometimes I do that as I'm going along, sometimes I do it afterwards. One more to do on this side. So one on a temporary pin, a bit high, and then half stitch, pin, half stitch, and release. Okay, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to talk through the other side, because it's exactly the same. So I've now got everything set up on the pillow in terms of the 8 bobbins in the middle that are going to work the spiders. So we've done that outside row and those outside diagonals. We've not done the pins at the end. So we're going to work a 4-legged spider. A 4-legged spider has 4 twists on the legs, but because there's 1 twist already within the half stitch, we're adding an extra 3, which will give us that 4. So let me do my twists now. So it's got 1 on it. 1, 2, 3. It's got 1 on. 1, 2, 3. It's got 1 on. 1, 2, 3. It's got 1 on. 1, 2, 3. 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 Okay, so we are now ready to start our spider. So I did talk you to you in the previous video, just spiders, about 4-legged spiders, but we concentrated on 2. So I'm going to talk you through this one again. So we start off in the middle. Our spider is going to be all in cloth stitch. We've got 4 legs, so starting in the middle with this pair, we're going to count through 4 in cloth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Push to one side, count back through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take the next pair along, work through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Push to one side, count back through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next one along. Count through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Push to one side, count back through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next one along. Through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've now got 4 through 4. So the first thing I'm now going to do is tension, and the way that I tension is I stroke. So I put my hands on the bobbin, so I'm holding them and I move them up. Okay, so there are a couple that my fingers are putting a bit more tension on to get them to lie relatively flat. But I don't need to worry too much about it because I'm now going to put the pin in the centre. So I'm not going to go lifting up pairs for it. I know roughly where my pin's going to be. I'm going to slide it up to the top of the pattern and then I'm going to tension again against that pin. And you can see how with a little bit of tension, just touching those bobbins, stroking them, but I'm pressing quite hard on them, but not yanking an individual one. Everything is straightened up. I'm now going to repeat that whole process starting in the middle. So I'm going to take this one through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. Push to one side, count back through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next one along. 1, 2, 3, 4. Push to one side, count back through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next one along through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Push to one side, count back through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next one, final one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that is all the stitches from our spider done. So what remains to be done is to twist the legs and to tension, but we tension first. So again, tension by putting on the bobbins, and then just move them very, very slightly. And again, you saw that that tensioned itself quite nicely. So I'm now going to do my twists. So four legs, so 4 twists on each. 1, 2, 3, 4, out the way. 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 Right, I'm going to put all of those for a minute behind a pin. And you can see when I'm moving bobbins, my hand is just over them. They aren't jumping over each other or anything like that. I'm then going to bring the next 4 down and twist. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's all our spider's legs done now. So we're now ready to move to the next part of the working. So the next working is the fan. So we've already got the fan worker. The fan worker is coming from that half stitch there, and it's this bobbin here. But we've got an extra outside passive to add. So that's one of our purple bobbins. So I'm going to put in a little extra pin for that, just to hold us slightly above the work. So just put that in place, and then you can see that what I've got here is a cloth stitch, a pin, not marked, 2 twists, and a cloth stitch to cover. So let me work that. So cloth stitch, not marked, 2 twists because we're at the end of a row, pin, cloth stitch. Okay, so following the rest of the working diagram for this row, we then twist our workers once, and we work through 1 pair that's coming through from the spider's leg in cloth stitch, invisible 2 twists not shown on the working diagram, and a pin. So twist the worker once through the first leg pair, twist twice, and put the pin in. Okay, and then once again by stroking tension. So we're now going to come back. So after the pin, oh sorry, I didn't cover that, did I? Which I talked about doing in the original bit of my working. So we've worked that one. So now we need to twist our workers once and work the edge stitch. So twist once, work the edge stitch, invisible 2 twists, put the pin in. So we're now going to come back through the outside passive, twist the worker once, through 1 pair that's already there, and bring in another, twist twice and put the pin in. So cloth stitch and twist, work through 1 that's already there, and 1 more. 2 twists, put the pin in. Okay, so we're now going to come back in exactly the same way. This time through 2, twist the worker, work the through the outer passive, twist twice that's not marked on the working diagram, and put the pin in. And as normal, you can see that I'm really stroking to do my tension, and I'm not doing lifting of bobbins to see pins. I'm just nicely scraping up the pricking. So coming back in exactly the same way. So I'm not going to talk you through the diagram at the same time on this one. I'm going to do it and talk through it. So I've gone through the outside passive, I've twisted. I'm going to go through the 2 that are already there, and bring in one more. Twist twice, put the pin in. And stroke. So I'm going to go back. 1, 2, 3. Twist the worker through the outside passive. 2 twists at the end and put the pin in. Okay, come back. So outside passive, twist. Through the pairs that are already there, because we're still getting wider. 2, 3. Bring in 1 pair. But after this pair, we are going to be leaving out pairs. So that just means that when we come back, we don't work through the last one. But after I've worked through it, I'm going to push it to one side to help me. So I'm going to do the longest row back now. So that's through 1, 2, 3, 4. Twist the worker and 1 more. So through 1, 2, 3, 4. Twist the worker and through 1 more. Okay, so on this row, I'm going to leave out 1, as I talked about. So I'm going to move that across to the other side of the pillow. So I'm going to come back. Cloth stitch, twist the worker through 1, 2, 3. But not the final one because the fan's getting narrower. 2 twists, pin. Come back. And I'm not going to work through that one next time, so let's move it out of the way now. So just through another 2, 1, 2, twist the worker once, work through the outside passive, and put 2 twists on, and put the pin in. Okay, through the outside passive and twist. Through 2, and cloth. Twist the worker twice, put the pin in. Come back. I'm not working through that one next time, so push that out the way. Through 1 more, twist, outer passive. 1, 2, twists, pin in, come back. Twist once, work through 1, twist twice, pin, another cloth stitch. That one's going out, twist the worker, twist twice and put the pin in. And at that point to stop, because the next row, next time I work back, I need pairs from that fan, and I haven't got to work in that fan. In fact, I haven't worked that to start off with. So now it's probably a good time to talk to you about managing your bobbins on your pillow. So yes, we haven't got huge numbers of bobbins on our pillow, but there are ways of managing your bobbins to keep your bobbins in order. So the first one of those is a stitch holder, any size, doesn't matter, knitting stitch holder. And on spangle bobbins, they can fit through the spangles. So I'm going to go from the outside to the middle. Okay, and then tighten it. And what that now means is that I can move those easily as a bunch around my pillow, get them out of the way. Doesn't matter if they're standing up on top of each other or anything like that. So it keeps your bobbins in order. There was a reason that I started at the outside edge. When I come to do the spider, I'll only need the 4 that are in the middle. Those 2 at the end can stay on the stitch holder. So that's option number 1. Probably the most common method that you find working with our spangled bobbins. Let me remove that. Okay, perfectly safe, perfectly secure. The other one that you get is, you see much more with continental bobbins, but they're fine on the Midland bobbins. I've never had any that the paint's worn off or anything like that. So they come in various sizes. There is a smaller size than this small one. But these are the ones that I tend to use because I use them on continental bobbins. So all you do with these is carefully put them under your bobbins and snap the elastic back. Okay, so then you can move them around. Normally the elastic's a bit tighter than that. That is this is the first time I've used this stitch holder, and it needs a bit of tightening up. But again, it works in exactly the same way. I sometimes do that to them instead, just to be a bit tighter on them. But yeah, so that's option number 2. So we're not going to need those bobbins because we're going to work over this side. So let me undo that and show you the last way. The last way probably isn't ideal on this pattern, but we'll work on patterns where you've got a lot of bobbins, and that's just to use shoelaces through the spangles. So literally you feed the end of the shoelace through the spangles. You can see it's a bit more time consuming, but if you've got lots of bobbins, they're a bit easier with this to handle. So there's that. Carry on going through. So you only need short laces. These I think are 40 or 45 centimetres. When you've done, you tie a knot and then tie a bow. Okay, so again, you can move them as one lot. These have the advantage that they come in, they bunch everything up effectively, whereas the others create a bit more space. So let's put those out the way. I'm going to push them to the back of the pillow so I can still see the working diagram. And I'm then going to go behind the pin to get everything back in order on this side. Okay, so we are now going to start the next fan. So our worker comes again from the row of half stitches, and we're going to add in one more pair. So that is our outside passive that we're going to put the extra pinhole in the pack pricking for. It's fine to prick that as you go because it's not doesn't need to be accurate. And then we're going to work through that pair in cloth stitch. Put the twist twice, the invisibly marked end of row twists, and cover with a cloth stitch. So cloth stitch and 2 twists that aren't shown on the working diagram, pin, cloth stitch. Okay, so like on the other side, every time we've worked through a purple pair or about to work through that outside passive, we put 1 extra twist on. So I'm going to work this because this is identical to what I've done there. I'm not going to talk you through it. I'm just going to do it and speed the video up slightly, but you'll see me doing it all. Okay, one of the things that working that reminded me is that, and you can actually see it in my work if you look very carefully, if you know what to look for. As I'm working at normal speed and not talking to you, one of the things I'm doing, certainly on cloth rows, is the worker pair will constantly need a little bit more thread off the bobbins. So you might have seen me, I'm constantly lifting up and just releasing a little bit more thread all the time as I'm working, so that I never get a bobbin that's too long or too short in my work. So yeah, I do that with all the bobbins. Just as I'm working through them, I'm constantly letting out a little bit of thread. My knots are very close to the, well, they're actually on the thread. They don't use the top of the head. They do hold much better that way. And my thread, as always, is generally at the top of the bobbins. On these, what I may find partway through is that the thread starts slipping, and if that happens, I will release the knot that's holding it on the bobbin, undo a bit, and then wind closer to the top. It's only when it goes far from the top for me that it starts to slip. Okay, so I've now worked that first repeat, and the following repeats are exactly the same. The only difference, as when I talked to you at the start of the working diagram, is the first spider we need to add 3 more twists, because they've already got 1 on each of the legs coming in from the half stitch, but on subsequent ones we need to add 4 on it. So you can see it's very tight, but there are 4 extra twists on each of those legs. So I will carry on right down to the bottom of the pattern until the final pins here. So I'll work the spider that's at the bottom, and then I'll redo that bit of the bottom with you. So I'm now at the last part of the work, and as you can see, I've been managing my bobbins as I've gone along. Going to be working on this side next. So these are on the stitch holder from when I was doing the spider, and I've just put all of those on the stitch holder now to get them out of the way while I work on this side. You'll find you'll do less undoing and less untwisting if you keep your bobbins on stitch holders that you're not using. So let me bring in the working diagram. So this was our working diagram for the start. Let me just check. Yeah. Okay. So the finish is actually the reverse of the start. So I'm going to turn it round. Okay, so this is my working diagram effectively for the finish. The only thing that's wrong with it is the number of twists on the spider's legs, which you should already have 4 on there from having worked there. So let me start on this side. Remove these from the stitch holders. Okay, so the first thing to note is that we cover that pin. So let's cover that pin. Okay. And given that we're going into half stitch, not shown on the on the working diagram, we'd put 1 twist on. And then we've got a series of 1, 2, 3, 4 half stitch pin half stitches that we can work. So let me work that. Half stitch, pin, half stitch, half stitch, pin, half stitch, half stitch, pin, half stitch, and 1 more, half stitch, pin, half stitch. And you can see the last little bit of tension over this side of the spider happens as I add those. So I'm now going to put all of those on a stitch holder. Even though I've actually finished the work. All but the last one, because I'm going to need that in a minute. Okay, so we're now going to undo this stitch holder. You see they've all come off in the right order that I need them in. No having to juggle pairs around. So again, we're going to cover that pin, and then we're going to work. Let me move that up very slightly so you can see the full one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Half pin half. So covering cloth stitch. We'd normally twist our worker, but we're going into half stitch anyway, so it needs one twist, not shown on the working diagram. And then half stitch, pin, half stitch, half stitch, pin, half stitch, half stitch, pin, half stitch, half, pin, half, and then the final two at the bottom, which are half, pin, half. Okay, so that is our working of the actual lace complete. I'm now going to finish this in exactly the same way that I finished the previous bookmarks in, by working from the outside in cloth stitch, then doing a collection knot. So I'm just going to work that. I'll speed up the video, but I'll leave the video on for that point, but just not talk to it. And obviously it's going to go fast. And now I've got everything to the end and brought in as much as I can at this point. I'm going to lift through one set under that way, the other set under that way. So these were the worker pairs, and I'm now going to do collection knot, just like I've done in the others. So right over left, through and through again. It just gives you that extra twist on it. And the second half is fine, just a normal reef knot. Okay, and again, right over left and through and through. Feels like it's getting tangled, but it's not. And then left over right and pull that one through. And that is your bookmark finished.